Well, welcome to our persuasive speech discussion, and congratulations for making it this far in the class. You've given a speech about yourself in the bag speech, an impromptu speech, as well as an informative speech. The persuasive speech is really the culminating assignment in this class. There is no real final except the persuasive speech. It is a research speech just like the informative speech, but it's a little bit longer and the goals are a little bit different. The persuasive speech over the last couple of decades have really impacted my life. After reading the research in the outlines as well as the deliveries, I have changed quite a bit about my life. I garden and compost because of a persuasive speech. I give blood and I hate needles, but I was convinced because of a persuasive speech. I am an organ donor, and I have that sticker on my license because of the persuasive speech. And oh my goodness, I tried to be a vegetarian for a year. I drink almond milk and not cow's milk. My wife always says, "Oh, I hate this time of year because it always means we're going to adjust our diet." And typically because I hear credible sources and you deliver your speeches so well, a lot of you, if you take the time and do a good job, it can be compelling and life-changing for people. I bought a Prius because of a persuasive speech. Yes, I do drive a Prius. And oh my goodness, I stopped spanking my kids when they were little because a student explained to me that was the wrong thing to do, had some credible sources. I basically would swat their diaper as they, if they were in the middle of the street to get them out of the street. But I stopped doing that because I was compelled by a student and their research. So there's so many different ways. I can continue on and on. I ran a marathon because of a persuasive speech, and I'll never do that again. But at the same time, you all, like I said, can change lives if you apply yourself here. I want to focus on a few of the objectives. Obviously, to take a position. In the informative speech, you are supposed to be as neutral as you could be, and here you are not going to be neutral. You are going to be penalized if you're neutral. We have to have a clear position that you're taking, either for or against, usually a controversial topic, and that's really the first requirement. I want you to speak extemporaneously. So what that means is you're going to have note cards in your hand. I'm actually going to give you 5 points if I see you using the note cards in your hand. I'm not saying reading off of them, but referring to them. A lot of times with these recorded speeches, it's really obvious if you have a screen in the back and you're reading from behind the camera, and please don't do that. I want to see you referring off of your note cards. Really, this is outside of these walls. This is the most common way to give a speech, is just with a few notes. And you're going to be speaking from 8 to 10 minutes. So I want you to develop a speech that is at least 8 minutes long, okay? But no longer than 10 minutes. So if you're in that sweet spot, you're not going to lose any points. Please don't go over 10 minutes because generally we still have quite a few students in the class, and I want to make sure we get all the speeches in. So it's really a logistical thing. But also it's a preparation indicator. If you within that time frame, it tells me that you practice and that you really know how long the speech should be. Display 1 to 5 visual aids, just like in the informative speech. So you can use tech, you can use objects. As long as we can see it, please refer to the visual aid lecture that I had included in the module. Make sure you have at least 1, but no longer than 5, because I don't want your visual aids to dominate the speech. And really, really important is the content, the minimum of 8 orally cited sources, okay? And when I'm looking at these sources, I really don't want you to use the same one twice. They should be different sources. I really want you to cite them, author, source, and date, or also known as who, what, and when. So, according to Dr. Joe Schmo in the New England Journal of Medicine, published in 2018, okay, he makes the argument that, all right? The source, I want to be really clear about this, is not the title of the article that you're reading, but the source would be the journal, okay? Or the periodical, perhaps. And you notice how I'm using, journal, periodical. This is because I really want you to use the databases. I've talked about this before with the informative speech. If you go to the library and click on the library on the website, the City College website, and go to the, the search engines, you're going to find EBSCO-host, you're going to find CQ Researcher, LexisNexis, and these are peer-reviewed journals. And of course, you can use periodicals depending upon the topic. If it's a more recent topic, you're probably going to use newspaper materials. So make sure you're not using the generic website.coms, because that can really hurt your credibility as opposed to help it. And that's what really you're trying to do, is help your credibility. Because, with ethos, that is one of the proofs of persuasion that can impact dramatically your ability to advocate. So that's really these are really the objectives of the persuasive speech. And let's move to the different kinds of persuasive speeches. So there's persuasive speeches about fact, all right? Whether something is true or false, okay? Education is necessary for success. Higher education is necessary for success. You could take the position that it's not or that it is, okay? And COVID-19 testing is effective, okay? You can take the position that it is or it isn't. So really it's true or false when we look at a question of fact or a topic that really focuses on a fact. We also could look at topics that focus on value. Whether something is good or bad for society. Right? Right or wrong, good or bad. So for instance, the app TikTok, is that good or bad for us, right? I have a daughter who would tell you that, it's amazing. It's a great app, and please, President Trump, do not get rid of it, okay? So TikTok is beneficial, not beneficial for society. You can define society as however you'd like to, children, students, etc. How about online instruction? Is that good or bad for us, right? I have a lot of opinions about online instruction. I'm happy that we are able to continue to teach, although it does definitely have its limitations. So something's good or bad for us. You have to take a position on it. Now, my preference, what I'd really like you to focus on is policy. And policy basically says that you have to come up with some plan that changes the status quo, right? So we know what status quo is, the way things are currently done, right? That we want to change. There's something wrong with the status quo, the way that we're doing things. There's something that is harmful about it. Okay, so you have to come up with a plan that addresses it. Okay, you've heard of problem solution probably in your English Writing 300 classes, where you've had to identify a problem in the status quo and then advocate a solution to address it. Okay, and that's really what we're talking about here. So, for instance, just recently in the news, there Asheville, North Carolina is they are offering African Americans reparations in the form of the city is investing in black-owned business as part of reparations. And you could advocate, we should do that here in Sacramento. That's a really good policy. That's a good way to address, a historical problem, a tragic problem. So that's something that you can do. Another one is, let's say, homelessness. If you're dealing with the struggle of homelessness in Sacramento, what should we do about it? Okay, it's really good to find a precedence that is, precedent being something that another city anywhere in the world is doing well, right? Where are they addressing homelessness well? In Salt Lake City, there's been a study over 10 years that says they have reduced homelessness dramatically by investing $10,000 into each person for, per person, I guess we should say, and providing shelter, not services, but shelter first, and they're getting some positive results there, okay? It's been modeled throughout the country. Maybe we should do that here in Sacramento. And that's really what I want you to do, is to identify a policy. That's my preference, is that you can bring up some some harm in the status quo and try to solve it. Some of the best policies are where you can have a plan of action for the people in your class. What can the folks do in this class to, help with the homeless issue, okay? And that's really important to have that kind of micro solution for folks in this class, okay? So that's your fact, value, and policy. If you're interested in a fact or value, I also can show you a way to set that up. And, we can talk about that either on Zoom and, or via email. But, let me address how to grade this, okay, or what the assignments are worth. The persuasive speech itself, just by doing the speech, is worth 50 points. So I think it's 350 course total. 50 of that is your persuasive speech. The formal outline is 10, as well as the self-evaluation rubric. We talked about that. You've done this for the informative speech, where you've turned in a rubric as well as a practice session of you on video, kind of proof that you've practiced. It shows that you did not ignore that lost canon of memory. And so you're going to evaluate that, turn that in, the rubric as well as the video. They're not, you have to have both to get the 10 points. And then also that you're delivering this extemporaneously, that you're actively using the note cards in your hand and speaking, extemporaneously, not off a manuscript that you're reading behind the camera or, in front of you. That's worth 5 points for a total of 75. And so that's 75 points out of 350, a good chunk, and that's why I say this is really your culminating assignment. This is really your final, and I hope you treat it as such. I know we're at the end of the semester, and you start getting, or at least end of the 8-week session, and you start getting a little bit maybe tired. This is the time to really up your game and finish strong. Hopefully you are comfortable enough to ask me any questions regarding this speech. I really want to help. You can Zoom in during office hours. You can ask me questions during our Zoom sessions during the week. And of course, you can email me. But please do ask. And good luck to you. And have a good day.